Hey guys, welcome to another episode of the Vulnerable Podcast. I'm sorry if the audio is not its best again, but I mean, we're quarantined. What can I do? Follow the Vulnerable Podcast on Instagram if you're not already. And just thank you for all the love and support on the episodes thus far. I can't believe we're on episode 5. But anyways, I'm really excited about today's episode because it's with Veronica Rensen. And she is the co-founder of Earth and Craft along with Amy Flores, who is actually in episode 3. So give that one a listen if you'd like. But yeah, she is a nurse and she comes from a conventional background. But along her journey, she switched to a more holistic route. And I really just wanted her to share that with us. So yeah.
Hi, thank you so much for having me. So my journey to a holistic lifestyle was over a span of almost 10 years, I think. The first thing that started me getting more interested into herbal medicine and a more holistic approach was in school. I was always fascinated by science and by biology, and so naturally I went into nursing, considering everyone told me there was good job opportunities there and I could pursue science, and so I enjoyed that. I was offered a position as a delegate to study in China for a couple of weeks while I was in college. And this was before nursing school, but we were able to go for 2 weeks and study Eastern versus Western medicine. And I was really fortunate to go on that trip because we got to go to clinics and pharmacies, and they did a lot of traditional Chinese medicine with herbs, and I mean they were treating people with cancer with herbal medicine, and I just thought that was amazing. And the smell of the pharmacies where they were making the formulations, it just smelled so good. And I remember thinking during that time, why don't we do this? Why don't we, at least primarily, right? At least to start with. I never grew up in a household that did any herbal traditional remedies, and it's knowledge that's passed down through generations for a long, long time. And I feel like it's getting lost now in this super modern age where Western medicine is super rampant and it's all just go to the doctor. So I was really fascinated by that. And then, I went to nursing school and continued my studies, and it always stayed in the back of my mind. And, the only thing we learned about herbal medicine in nursing school was to remember the G herbs and that they might interact with blood thinners. And I remember thinking wait, what? Because I ethnopharmacology and learning all of the science and the chemistry, and I have to understand why for everything. And so I remember thinking why don't we learn more about the herbs? Why isn't this something implemented as part of medicine? Because a lot of our medicines come from herbs.
Right.
So I always thought that was missing a little bit. And then during nursing school, I went through a period of depression, and I had struggled with that pretty much my whole life, on and off. It runs in my family, and I'd witnessed my mother and my grandmother going on and off antidepressant medications, and seen how they didn't like how they felt on them, so they would always get off of them, and then they would get sick, and it was just this cyclical pattern that I didn't want to fall into. So whenever I would find myself in a depression, I never went and got on any clinical drugs or anything. But I read this book, I think it was called Spontaneous Happiness by Dr. Andrew Weil, maybe. But anyways, he is an MD, and Andrew Weil, he is an integrative medicine doctor, and he talked about a lot of different natural things to treat depression and just how our society views depression in general. And one of the things he had mentioned was St. John's wort. And I'd kind of heard of that before, so I decided to try it out. It can't hurt, right? I don't have to go to a doctor. I can just get it. It's natural. And I remember maybe on the second or third day of taking it that I woke up and the first thought that I had was I'm so happy. And I was this is crazy. This thing worked. And so I took it for a couple of weeks, and then I felt totally better. I spent some time in nature, and I pretty much cured my depression at that point. I was able to refocus, and I just thought why would I not try it this route first?
Right.
And so throughout the rest of my career, I finished nursing school, and then it kind of took a back burner, like a holistic lifestyle. I worked in a really high acuity ICU. We did neurologic trauma and regular trauma, but a lot of brain injuries and stuff. And it was a lot of stress. And, you know, stress is really hard on your body, doing 13, 14-hour shifts. I worked night shift. And, you know, so I wasn't in the healthiest place. You know, I wasn't like eating a proper diet. So the stress combined with that, my lack of sleep because I was like being a vampire working nights. It led up to more depression and, you know, working through that. And so it was actually a blessing when my husband was stationed here in Puerto Rico because I kind of had to take a step back from working. That's when we got pregnant with my son Zane. And something just kind of like awoke in me to reconnect with the natural ways, the things I'd always believed in. And, you know, I would practice here and there on my own, but I never really had time to focus on it before. So, having more time, I started to focus more on nutrition. And I mean, that plays such a key part, like actually knowing where your food comes from and that it's not like, that it's organic. It's so important because like those chemicals can mess with you. You mess with your hormones, mess with the way you digest, your immune system, everything. So organic food, local, you know, that changes a lot for me.
Did you, like, how did you go about changing your diet, let's say? Did you, or like, was there certain people that you maybe followed or...
There were a couple people. One of my favorite, I actually did start following quite a few people on this journey of like trying to become a healthier person. Sarah's Day is one on Instagram.
I love her. She's Australian.
Yeah, the Australian. She's great. I love her. Like she's super natural, super like into fitness, and
she's like raw too. Like she's relatable.
Yeah, and she had a son like same time as I did. So I felt, and I had been following her for years, ever since I like my nursing school time. And so I remember like kind of getting into nutrition a little bit then. So, I mean, it was a long time coming. There wasn't just one day where I woke up and was like, okay, I'm only eating like raw, organic, local food. Like it was just like slowly swapping out one thing after the next and like honestly doing more research. And then the more you learn, the more you realize how important it is to eat holistically, and that is medicine in of itself. Like your diet is a big part of natural medicine.
You are what you eat.
Exactly. So
like once you had Zane, I remember you were telling me earlier just like how, like what were some of the things you did, I guess, within your pregnancy and then like to now, I guess where you are holistically. I mean, you're talking about like your birth journey and just how that, you know, completely shifted, or I guess made you realize like from then on till now you wanted to be like,
so
more informed, do more you know what I mean?
Yeah, my birth journey was not ideal, unfortunately. Here I went to a traditional doctor. I did what they told me to do, you know, and I ended up being induced like a month early, just I don't know, because it was convenient for the doctors, and so it was kind of traumatic. Granted, he was healthy, like I was healthy, and you know, I didn't end up having a C-section, which was incredible because but after that I just realized, like, I don't know, it's more of like I started to have like a spiritual calling to calling, like maybe a reawakening is a better term to say. Like I started being called back to nature, and I spent a lot of time just by myself in nature and feeling called to like become what we used to be, like farming for our food, and how we're supposed to live in like symbiosis with the land. And like Earth is so incredible, and I just feel like the way we're trashing the planet is not sustainable, and I kind of wanted to just live my life in a way that I felt truly aligned with my beliefs. And I wasn't before, you know, I would just, oh, this is how I feel, but it wasn't always how I would act. So it was more just really implementing the changes of like where I would get my food, and I really wanted to just fully embody the person that I wanted to be for my son and be able to raise him in an environment where I could teach him the things that I wasn't taught, things I had to teach myself.
What are some things that you think someone could do, maybe like just little changes, like even if you have, you know, a migraine or something, you know?
Yeah, some easy, like, herbal swap outs,
like,
right? So some of the things I think are easy swaps to start, like, getting you into, like, a healthier lifestyle. I know for me, drinking, like, a mushroom coffee in the morning
like
has...
Four Sigmatic?
Yeah, Four Sigmatic, or, like, Earth and Craft makes an adaptogenic mushroom blend, too, that I use. And it just, like, you don't like, I was so addicted to coffee before, and to the point where if I didn't have it, like, I would have a headache, and, like, you know, that's not healthy, you know, and you're just like, but I need it.
Right.
But it's like, you should wake up and have natural energy if you've slept enough, or so the mushroom coffee, or honestly just implementing, like, a tonic in the morning, like, whether it's, like, a good smoothie with some superfoods in it, and really cherishing it, and also just listening to your body, like, whether that means drinking more water. I know a lot of us are chronically dehydrated, myself included, so really paying attention
about Hydro Flask and stuff.
Yeah, we were. So paying attention to how much water I drink. Honestly, having a big glass of water in the morning before I have any coffee or anything, that helped. And because coffee can stress, it, like, gets your adrenals going and can stress your body on levels that you don't even realize. So having, like, a nice, like, alternative, like a tonic, like a superfood, instead of your coffee, just to, like, try it out, that can be a good one. Or if you have a headache, some good alternatives. I mean, you can try out, like, some tinctures and things, or if you're interested in, like, making your own, you can always do that. I know.
So what is a tincture for the people listening?
Okay.
Who don't know.
Yeah, so a tincture is a traditional medicine preparation. So all, like, doctors up until, like, the past 100 years, they used herbs as medicine. And so looking back at that, the history there, it's, like, amazing how, you know, herbal tinctures or herbal preparations, like, that's what doctors would prescribe. And we've gotten so far away from that, but I think there's, like, a holisticness to using plants as medicine that, like, it feeds more than just the active ingredients. Like, there's almost, like, the plant spirit, like, teaches your body how to, like, be whole or something. Like, there's more to it than just taking out the active parts. So a tincture traditionally is, like, plant material, either fresh or dried, and it's extracted into alcohol. You can also have menstruums, which is, like, the liquid part, that's not alcohol. You can make it with vinegar, you can make it with vegetable glycerin, which is kind of sweet. It's super good for kids. You can make it with water, like a hot water botanical infusion, or, like, an herbal tea is technically, like, a way to get the herbal, like, benefits into your diet. So there's a bunch of different ways you can preserve, but alcohol is a really good preservative. It's good pretty much almost indefinitely. And it extracts a wide variety of the constituents of the plants. So you would just, like, put it in a jar with some alcohol for, like, 6 weeks, shake it up every day, and then strain it and bottle it. And you could take, like, a dropper full. So for migraines, like, white willow bark, rosemary is good for headaches.
My dog's in her face.
Hi, Zoe.
Zoe loves attention.
But
yeah, I'm definitely, like, want to try out St. John's wort. How many do you even take? Is it, like, I think it's capsules, right?
So you can get St. John's wort capsules. Sometimes, now I'm gonna put a little disclaimer about capsules. I did see benefits. I used capsules when I first had my first thing with St. John's wort. But sometimes when the herb is powdered, it only has a shelf life of a year after so that it stays active. And a lot of times supplement companies, like, it's already been sitting on the shelf for a year by the time it gets to the store. So a lot of times people take herbal supplements and they're like, well, I don't feel any benefit from this. And it's because it's already been powdered and processed, and, like, the active constituents are already pretty much, like, non
I didn't know that. Yeah.
So I think the best thing you could do, like, you can make your own capsules, or you can order, like, whole St. John's wort herb. And there's a bunch of reputable places like Mountain Rose Herbs, or just organic sources, and you get the whole herb, and you can either, like, make an infusion yourself, or you can just get some empty capsules and put them in. And you would take, like, 2 capsules 3 times a day for St. John's wort. traditionally, or for like a tincture you would just take like a dropper full 3 times a day.
Okay.
But there are other herbs that are good for depression too, like rhodiola is a really good one, rhodiola, rosea, and schisandra berry. Any of the adaptogenic herbs like maca root and a lot of the medicinal mushrooms, they help to like balance everything out, whether your hormones. And I think that a lot of people have deficiencies in things that, we don't even know everything with Western medicine. And so there's a lot of things at play, whether it's your diet, whether it's your hydration, exercise, that can all contribute to it. So it's good to start, at least with a little bit. I think just if you implement some herbs into your diet
and just see if there's like a change, and if there's not,
yeah,
about your business, but like,
right.
yeah.
And a lot of people actually, I hear that like they'll start a supplement or a regimen, and then they'll be like, oh well, I did this for 3 weeks or 4 weeks and I didn't feel any different, so then I stopped, but then I noticed when I didn't have it.
Yeah.
Like that they don't exactly notice when everything gets balanced, but then they'll notice there'll be like a big deficiency when they stop. So it's not always like a miracle, it might take longer for your body to adjust to it, but that's like the more natural way.
Yeah. Especially if you have like a lot going on in there and you're newly like to just eating good, healthy, foods
Yeah,
that
it takes
actually
like a
fuel
little
you.
while to get used to it.
Well, what are some of your favorite like earth and craft products?
So,
some that you want to share?
Okay, so some of my favorite products. So a lot of the products that we make, I needed them. So there are things that I really use every day.
And they're so cute. Like, they're so aesthetically pleasing.
Aww.
And, like, I love the bottles and just the labels and everything. So pleasing. But anyways.
Thank you. So one of my favorite things that I use every day is our Venus Potion, which is a woman's, like a uterine health tonic. And so there's a lot of herbs in there that are all, they're chosen to be good for female reproductive health. I wouldn't say it's good for anyone who's like trying to be pregnant or who is pregnant, because some of the herbs they cause like to regulate your period and to regulate like your hormones, and if you have period cramps it helps to relieve that. So it's more just like an everyday healthy woman tonic. That is one that I definitely take every day. I know I struggled with irregular periods for a long time through my period of stress when I was working too much and not sleeping or eating right. So that was one I wanted to make, and that one actually tastes good because it's not just made with alcohol, it's made with a mix of things. So some tinctures don't always taste good, we'll just throw that out there. Yeah, herbs in alcohol, sometimes it doesn't taste good, but I don't think medicine is supposed to taste good. I think our bodies should run functionally, and then if you have to take something, it's not supposed to taste like sugar.
Right. And most of the time people take stuff that tastes awful anyway, and then it's not good for you on top of it.
Exactly.
So what's the difference?
Yeah, like taking shots.
Yeah.
Yeah. But so the Venus Potion is one of my favorites. We're currently sold out, but it's about to come back in stock like within the next week.
I know, I want some of that. Sounds
Yeah.
good.
The adaptogenic mushroom cocoa is one that I do every morning. And it's just like a cocoa powder. It's cacao, maca root, reishi, chaga, and lion's mane mushrooms, and a little coconut milk powder.
Yeah,
so
that
makes
sounds
it pretty
like it
creamy.
tastes good.
Yeah, it tastes super good. It doesn't have any sweetener in it, but the maca root lends like a little caramel flavor. So you can sweeten it if you need, but it tastes better than black coffee, I'll say that.
Right.
Yeah. So I love that. And then I have things just on standby.
Right.
So like we have a pain release tincture which has California poppy, ashwagandha, ginger, and valerian root, and that's like super good for pain, headache. I know our partner Amy, she had used that with her patients for a long time. So it's super effective. I've got patients. I have a lady in Australia who swears by it for her fibromyalgia. So it's a wide variety of pain. The valerian is a nervine, so it's even good for like headaches and stuff like that. But I don't take that regularly. That's more just like if I'm really struggling with something. But a lot of times if I have a headache, it's because I'm dehydrated. So I try to really address the deep down causes before I turn to medicine.
As everyone should.
Yeah. So those are some of the things I keep. I mean, we have like herbal tea blends. I love a good herbal tea.
I love the sage spray.
Oh, the sage spray.
Yeah.
So good.
So how did Earth and Craft come about?
So during a meditation session, I actually had kind of like a vision. where I was like an old woman and I owned this apothecary. And so for a long time I like put that aside, like, oh well, that's in the future, you know, that's I'm an old lady, so that's not now.
Was this after you had Zane?
Yeah, this was after I had Zane.
Okay.
And I had already like kind of get into my spiritual practice with like meditation and stuff. And so I put that off for a long time, and I was always struggling, like, do I go back to nursing? Like, should I go get a job right now? Like, it's been a couple years since I've worked, and something in me was just like, no, like, this is your future. Like, this is what you're supposed to do. Like, this knowledge, especially now, it's so important that we get this, like, that we spread the message of holistic health and kind of going back to the old ways, because it's interesting that this like crazy thing happened like in the world right now, right after we started. And I think it's such an important time that we are able to like spread the message of sovereignty and, you know, growing your own food and making your own medicines, and like kind of learning what our ancestors always knew, because it's getting lost a little bit. And so part of our mission is definitely just to like spread awareness about herbal medicine, about medicinal plants that like you can harvest in your area. Like, we share a lot of how-tos and educational stuff. We try to source locally as much as we can. I mean, we make like elderberry syrup, and elderberries don't grow in the tropics, so we source from organic, sustainable sources. But we do harvest a lot of local things, and we're hoping to expand that as well. Like, I know guanabana leaves are super medicinal, and guanabanas grow a lot here, so we're planning on dehydrating, processing some stuff with that, and a lot of things we do source locally with the farms that we work that are here. So we do try to source locally as much as we can, but some things that don't necessarily grow here we outsource, but it's always organic and it's always sustainable.
Where can they find you guys? Like, if you're based in Puerto Rico, they have a weekly farmers market. I believe it's every Sunday.
It's Saturday mornings.
Oh, Saturday morning.
So it's Aguadilla Farmers Market from 8 a.m. to 12 p.m. and it's next to Caliantai. And then we also are available online at earthandcraft.com, and we do ship everywhere. If your country isn't listed, you can like DM us on Instagram and we'll figure it out. But every state, at least in the United States, should be listed on there, in Puerto Rico. And then our Instagram is Earth and Craft, and Facebook Earth and Craft.
Well, thank you so much for coming on and sharing your story.
Yes.
And yeah.
Thank you for having me.
I'll see you guys next week. Bye.